Look, I can't help but think that now might be a good time for a little fire and ice. Please
Do not know. There's never a good time for fire and ice.
What happens when you mix fire and ice?
Warm water, baby.
It's bubbling, baby. Warm water. Warm water.
It is time once again for Fire and Ice. It's a Saturday, and except for a 6-month span, every Saturday we're here, except for half the year when we're not. Mike Tipton joined by Brandon the Iceman Cone. We are over here at Union DraftHouse on Sunland Park. Brandon, this is like coming home for us. I was telling Destiny on the way over here. I was like, man, I missed this place.
I did too. I always love this place. I mean, you know what I love most about it is the fact that it's huge. I mean, we're upstairs, which is cool. We have our own little nook and cranny up here, so I feel like we're up close and personal, having a good time, and of course it is a lovely pub. It is. It's good nosh, good pizzas, $5 or $2 pizzas today. Build your own, and then a $1 each topping. So that's a great deal, and the food is phenomenal. It's a good joint. I like this place.
Brandon's favorite quote of all time. It's phenomenal.
It's phenomenal. They're eating the dogs.
Well, one thing they don't serve here at Union DraftHouse is dog. They don't serve cats.
Why don't they serve cats?
It's God.
It's pretty funny.
We'll talk about that later. Maybe I can tell David's getting uncomfortable with the conversation right now. Okay, so a lot of things have happened over the last week. UTEP did what UTEP does, is a thing that we both cautioned against that they could not do.
Yes.
They start the season 0-2.
Right.
Then we go into Sunday. Dallas Cowboys start the season 1-0. Mm-hmm. You have a whole bunch of fun stuff going on. Having the NFL and college football back at the same time was just like too much in the veins at the time. I felt like at one point on Sunday I was just the laziest man on the planet. Because I wasn't doing a damn thing all weekend.
I completely agree.
Then Monday comes, and Aaron Rodgers and the Jets lose to the San Francisco 49ers and the Christian McCaffrey list, San Francisco 49ers. And then we just get right now, via Adam Schefter, that the 49ers are going to put Christian McCaffrey on the IR.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that first?
Well, obviously, I'm glad I didn't have the number 1 overall pick because I would have drafted him like so many other people, and rightfully so. I mean, but I'm not surprised just because of the fact that once we heard late in that Monday nighter that he was not going to play, then you knew that something was up. And, I mean, the fact remains is that they had talked about the injury. They had talked about it in preseason, and they had mentioned it. And when they're mentioning it, then you know that there's some sort of a little bit of a problem. We know his injury history, and we know how much San Francisco has liked to run him in the past. So I think that all the signs were there. And then they said tendonitis. In the ACL, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, they're trying to be extremely optimistic and cautious, which they should be with their cash cow. But, oh gosh, sorry about that. I need to try to work on that. But it's worrying me from a perspective, obviously, of McCaffrey, because I think there's more than they're really disclosing, because they say, okay, what'd you say, week 6 you would be eligible? So that's what, about mid-October?
Yeah, so I
mean,
like we'd be halfway through October by the time Christian McCaffrey comes back, and that's going to be a huge question mark for San Francisco because the backup came in, did a decent enough job.
Good.
The Jets' running defense doesn't look like it translated this year. That was a really top 10 defense last year.
Yeah.
Now this year they're not looking anywhere near to that level. Mm-hmm. But you need Christian McCaffrey. It is so hard to replace what he brings to your team.
Sure.
Which is all the touchdowns. What's the streak he had? It was like 24 straight games of getting a touchdown, right?
Yes.
And that's ever since he's been to San Francisco. But this has been the knock on him his entire career is he cannot stay healthy.
Yeah.
So now if you're San Francisco, you got to try to figure out what we're going to do, how we're going to navigate this one particularly, because this is a huge piece of the puzzle missing for them. That offense against any other team might not do as well. That offense going up against a very potent offensive team, which I don't think the Jets are. I know they got Aaron Rodgers. We got to see more out of that before we can say anything about the Jets. But if you put this team up against like a Kansas City again, and that could be a potential Super Bowl repeat, right? The 49ers versus Kansas City. Without Christian McCaffrey, they're not making it anywhere near there.
No. I mean, that's the thing is he is the man, the myth, the legend for the squad. But I will say I was very, very impressed, and I think a lot of people were in the same boat. That you saw what they had in the waiting, the man in the waiting, and I mean certainly Mason had an amazing performance. Really, he had more carries than McCaffrey ever had, and they ran him to the boat, and he was able to just 147 yards on the ground. The one thing he did not do that McCaffrey does well is be a good pass receiving running back. But I mean, it's only one game. I think this game at Minnesota, will be a great sample size for this kid. But this kid, I mean, who knows how good he truly is? It is one game, and it's hard to really, discover how great somebody is based off the small, limited sample size. But I will say, if he keeps doing that well, or at least, performs admirably in McCaffrey's absence, then San Francisco could have something.
And imagine what they could have because you already have Deebo Samuel, you have Brandon Ayuk, you got George Kittle. If Mason can step in and be serviceable, even not necessarily Christian McCaffrey, but serviceable, then that makes the wait a little bit easier. But we just don't know.
We don't know.
And
Give
then
us a few games.
The biggest question mark about this is if San Francisco was ever behind, you knew that they could rely on passing the ball because there was great pass protection and McCaffrey's a great receiver.
Right.
What can Mason do in his absence in that aspect of the game?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, and that's the thing is, if he really wants to become the more universal and diverse back, he's got to be like some of the greatest backs in the league, and that's to be able to catch that ball. And hopefully that they can figure out a way to utilize him more in that respect.
And I think it'll be interesting. And this game that I didn't think I was going to think this way at the beginning of the season in week 2, that I would be excited to see San Francisco taking on the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah.
But Sam Darnold looks damn good.
Yeah, and Aaron Jones had a great first game, got into the end zone, looked like vintage Aaron Jones. And Aaron Jones, continues to show, even, and getting into the later stages of being for a running back in his late 20s, or is he 30 now? I think he's 30 now.
He's going to hit 30.
He's going to hit 30.
He's got to be at 30.
Yeah, I mean, he's still averaging 6.4, I think, yards per carry. And I have to say, this could be an amazing spot for him. He's not competing with anybody else per carries. He's the head dog there in Minneapolis, and I loved what he did week 1. Everybody wanted to, say the Vikings are going to stink and this and that. And hey, you know what? Beat the bad Giants team, whatever. But the point is, a win is a win. Give me a win any way you look at it in this league, right?
Speaking of that bad Giants team, do you know when the last time Daniel Jones threw a touchdown in MetLife Field was?
Is this a trick question?
No.
I'm going to say maybe midway last year or something. I mean,
January 4th of 2023.
You're kidding.
So it's been a full season and some change since he threw a touchdown in his home stadium.
So they didn't go after a quarterback.
In that time frame.
It's
that time frame, he's thrown more pick sixes than actual touchdowns.
You serious?
Yes.
What kind of a schmuck organization doesn't go after a quarterback?
I like Neighbors.
I like Neighbors.
Yeah.
He's going to be great, right? But who the hell is going to throw him the ball? Well, apparently not Jones.
But that would have been the thing, right? Is like if you're going to go after a receiver, and this is like kind of full circle thing. What I'm trying to do here, talking about Minnesota, you have the talent. You have Justin Jefferson. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've got Aaron Jones as your running back. You have a solid defense. You have the foundation
decent
there.
Tight end,
Yeah, you got a decent tight end. Hawkinson. Hawkinson. And the thing is now you have a serviceable, cheap quarterback that allows you to go out and get the other positions of need.
Sure.
The Giants had that and then decided, you know what? Let's give Daniel Jones 6 years, $190 million.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just
the fact that he's one of the top 10 highest paid quarterbacks and he hasn't thrown a touchdown at home in damn near 2 years, not like 2 actual seasons.
That's crazy.
Says a lot about who this guy is as a quarterback, but it says more about what the Giants are as a team and the way that they're ran.
It's all about the morons.
The fact that they were willing to let Saquon Barkley walk away and just go to a team in the division. Yeah. And we saw, like, once again, limited sample size, but if Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley could get on the same page, that's just as scary as Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry being on the same page.
Sure, absolutely. And stupid is as stupid does, okay? Jesus. Sometimes people forget an organization is only as good as the people that run it. Sure, you need the ponies. Sure, it helps you win. That's the bottom line. But if it's not run well, the ponies will travel somewhere else, okay? And you won't have good drafting. okay? And also you won't utilize great free agents, and you'll let some of your best players go. So people always like to think about an organization. They think, oh, it's all about the players. It is not all about the players. You obviously don't know about the business side of the game. The business side means that if I have good people running it, and if I have people willing to spend the money and willing to set everything up the way it should be run, then I hopefully can eventually become a winning franchise or organization.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that kind of surprises me about the narrative that was surrounding the Dallas Cowboys leading up to last week, Sunday morning, 11 o'clock. Dak Prescott gets himself a new contract.
I sent you the
Yes.
message there.
But the thing, the narrative that was going through, some of the sports agents out there was that Jerry Jones was a cheap owner.
Yes. He's never been a cheap owner.
How can you say someone's a cheap owner when they're habitually on the salary cap line?
Always, man.
For 30 years. Yeah. They invented the salary cap to save the rest of the league from Jerry Jones.
Yes, that's true. It's a good point. Yeah. He's never been afraid of spending a lot of money. And, that's what you got to love him. One thing that you can criticize Jones all you want, but as a Cowboys fan, you have to appreciate his willingness to always spend and overspend, which you can't say about a lot of the teams out there.
And that was one of the conversations that David had, and I'm glad that David brought this up with me earlier before the day, was the impact that Dak Prescott's contract is going to have on the Dallas Cowboys. How can the Dallas Cowboys navigate through this now? Because you and I have kind of differing opinions on this. Mm-hmm. I said last week that I thought they should have just tore the whole damn thing down and rebuilt, because to me, you cannot be a successful team having 33% of your salary cap locked up in two guys, which is CeeDee Lamb
beg to differ.
And Dak Prescott, because the next contract coming up at the end of this year is Micah Parsons.
Right.
The biggest contract that you have coming up after that is going to be your offensive line, the other ones that you have, your defense, all that stuff that you got to try to build. Mm-hmm. Whenever you look at the teams that have been successful, that have won Super Bowls, yes, you have that huge contract of Patrick Mahomes, but it's so team-friendly.
How much do you think Jordan Mason is making from the Niners?
Well, he's not making much.
So is it not my observation, and yours as well, you're an intelligent human being, that every single year we have tremendous injuries happen, and then all of a sudden somebody that you just never heard of comes out of the woodwork and ends up being an incredible football player? Because at that level, if you've made it to that level, you are really good. You just oftentimes never get the opportunity to be there. So what I'm really trying to prove here is that there are a lot of amazing players out there that are not going to cost you a king's ransom, that either are on your roster or are obtainable. You pick up a Dalvin Cook who may be a little long in the tooth, but who knows how he's going to respond.
And the circumstances have to be just right.
Right. Look, Zeke looked good last week.
Yeah.
Zeke looked good. So, the point is that, yes, you're, extending a lot for two players, but damn, those two players are pretty freaking good. And you already have a good defense, okay? So you can build around your foundation there.
But the fact of the matter is that you are going to have to pay that defense. You're going to have to pay DeRon Bland.
But there's also a lot of good defensive players out there that you could draft that are there.
But you're going to have to pay Micah Parsons.
Of course you are.
And at that position, he's going to be the highest paid player on the defensive side.
Yes.
So now you're going to have the highest paid quarterback, the highest paid receiver, and the highest paid defensive lineman to go along with the highest paid cornerback. Because let's not forget, Trayvon Diggs got his last year.
Yeah, he did.
So you've got all that money locked up right there.
Yep.
And you're talking about, okay, maybe you can find somebody, maybe you can find somebody, maybe you can find somebody. San Francisco's lucky in being able to find people and sign people to long-term contracts because they ain't paying Brock Purdy a damn thing right now.
Right, and they're also
whenever they
moves all the time.
And whenever they do have to pay Brock Purdy.
Trades throughout the year.
Yeah, whenever they have to pay Brock Purdy, they're going to have to start getting rid of some of those people.
Probably, and it's all a give and a take, okay? And not only that, they have the best kicker arguably in the NFL right now. Aubrey, who's just blowing it up, man. That's the thing is that
I can't believe he made a 66-yarder that didn't count.
Yeah, that was great. But I'll tell you, honestly, I look at it from this perspective. I am the biggest critic of the Cowboys of all. I hate him. I really do. I love him and I hate him, right? But all I can say is at this particular moment that I look at what they have at least this year. And I'm not going to say, hey, they're going to go far, they're going to be great. But I am going to say that it was the absolute necessity to sign Dak for 4 more years because, look, Dak is in a rhythm right now. Dak is going second year in a row with being an MVP caliber quarterback. And I know, again, I'm going to say the sample size is very small. It's against a Cleveland team that had an amazing defense last year and was really good last year. But, they looked horrible week one.
For everyone that always dogs on me because I say it all the time that defense doesn't translate from year to year, example is the Jets. and Cleveland, because Dallas was able to do that, and Dallas was a 3-point underdog in that game.
Right.
I don't understand how Dallas was an underdog in that game at all.
Yeah, that's a great point. Well, because you're on the road, and of course, Cleveland, the way they
Vegas
did
wanted to
last
give up money is what that felt like.
I guess. I mean, but again, you just don't know what to expect, and there was the lack of possible running game, and the voids, trying to fill the voids, and of course one of your DBs is out. So I mean, there's always things to take into consideration why they should be a 3-point dog.
And there was the circumstance where, thank you for mentioning underdog, the one time the Eagles were able to win the Super Bowl had to do with bargain rates placed on their quarterbacks. Carson Wentz, who had to leave because of injury, and Nick Foles, who was their fill-in. And that's why they could afford the offensive line that they had.
And, of course, Nick Foles ended up being Mr. Philly, and there's a statue of him outside of the link. So that says that.
But David hits the nail right on the head right there, right? They were able to afford a great offensive line.
Right.
Dallas right now has a questionable, at best, offensive line.
And yes, you can recruit picks, but the offensive line has to be of the elite status, as what Mike pointed out to me earlier. It's your quarterback is the most valued, and the second most valued position in the NFL are the members of the offensive line,
especially your left and right tackles. The guys that protect the quarterback,
the blind side,
have such a value on them that's what needs to be addressed. The Dallas Cowboys, they just got out of that contract with Tyron Smith. I'm one of the people that doesn't I don't think he should have joined the Jets. I think he should have retired. My dude was looking bad on Monday night.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter stands that this team needs to be built around that type of nucleus, right? Quarterback, line on the offensive side, line on the defensive side. If you can own that, you can run the league for a long time. But you cannot get those elite players at those positions, nor can you afford them if you're just paying so much money. Tom Brady was so successful because he had a contract that was always team-friendly, that was always not the highest-paid quarterback in the NFL. They had the ability to go out and get other players because they had the money that was there. The salary cap went up 20%. Dak's contract went up 40%.
Right. And again, I'm just going to go back to, to me, the ideal organization, the Kansas City Chiefs. If you're able to keep that quintessential quarterback and then get a decent running back. I mean, Pacheco's pretty darn good, okay? And then obviously you need to build that offensive line, and you have a very smart coach like Andy Reid, and he has smart people under him. The defense looked kind of crappy against Baltimore, but it's Baltimore. The point is that every year they moved up in the draft to get Worthy. I mean, it's little moves like that you're going to get guys that are less expensive, but that can ultimately become superstars. Let's even say you're renting them for a season or two. It's all about what am I going to do now? Not 20 years from now, not next season. We're only looking at the here and the now. And right now, in the here and now, the Cowboys, after 1 week, look like a well-rounded team. And how about the fact that Zimmer's back? He knows that team. He knows the organization. He knows the players. They could even have a better defense this year than last year.
That is crazy to think about, because that defense was really damn good last year. But the Dallas Cowboys, there's so many question marks, and I know we're going to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think that the philosophy is always going to differ, right? But how many times last year did you yourself, Brandon the Iceman Cone, say that the Kansas City Chiefs were not going to win the Super Bowl because of what was surrounding Patrick Mahomes?
Extensively.
Exactly.
But again, if you have a great quarterback, make even what's called mediocre players, or players that have no business winning a Super Bowl, end up winning a Super Bowl. And that's where, look, I'm not going to say Dak's a Super Bowl MVP, but I am saying that I like the way he's managing the game. I like his accuracy. He's not making stupid decisions. Again, it's what is he doing for us right now? And right now he looks good.
And you also pointed out, Brandon, that people who don't cheat aren't trying hard enough.
That's true.
My other criticism of the Cowboys is they were being cited for the wrong penalties.
Yes.
I mean, if you're going to cheat, you have to do the things that the refs won't spot.
Yeah.
But delay of game is obviously something that a ref can spot easily.
Sure.
And
then let's welcome to the NFL, man. If there's not going to be a bad call every week, then my name isn't the Iceman. I mean, it's just the nature of the game. You got to be ready to get screwed on a weekly basis by the zebras, right?
So I'm glad that David brought that up, because, as you all know, I was very excited to watch Tom Brady's debut as a broadcaster. I know a lot of people were hating on it. I don't
Yeah.
see where the hate. I think it's just petty jealousy of we want Tom Brady to be bad at something because he's so damn good looking. He's
Sure.
had such a charmed life.
Yes, he has.
He's the highest paid analyst now, getting $375 million over 10
heck,
years.
he's a movie star too.
Yeah, he's a movie. He was in that. What was it, 80 for Brady or something like that?
Bingo. Yes.
Yeah,
So we've got all this stuff with Tom Brady. Like you got all this, and then you hear all these criticisms coming out of it. And the criticism people had was that he said, well, if you go back, it's tougher to move forward if you keep going backwards. And they're like, well, no shit. But I honestly believe that if he's like, that penalty's nothing, then people would have been like, well, that's because you're Tom Brady.
Right. Yeah. Hey, man, you're never gonna make everybody happy. I've always said that. I think he did a decent job for his first broadcast.
I thought it was okay.
It kept me entertained. Look, the bottom line is it takes a long time to become a Romo or an Aikman. It really does. And most guys never will because they're just not good enough. They really aren't. And you and I both know we've done play-by-play, we've done color. It's a very challenging job, no matter how great you were at the game, no matter how intelligent you are, even well-spoken you are. There's a certain art that goes into broadcasting. And when you know, okay, and you have to be so shrewd and you have to be able to kind of do all of the above, analyze the game, be spontaneous, be funny, be entertaining, and just it's not an easy job. So, I mean, if anybody can do good at it, it would be Brady. Let's see how he does by his season's end.
I think the thing with Brady was that there's so much, and this is what I was trying to articulate to people. There's so much going on up here because of the way that he processed the game, the way that he studies for the game, that they said that he makes so many pauses during his speech.
Right.
It's because he doesn't want to get it wrong. He's gathering the next thought that's trying to come out because he's trying to process all of that at one time. Whereas a quarterback of a team, you process it, it's out right there. Right?
Yes.
His whole thing is, I want to make sure that this is right, this is articulated well. Yeah, he stepped over a touchdown call.
Yeah.
That's going to happen.
It happens once in a while.
Especially in a fast-paced game.
Just be careful, though, because you don't want it to happen too often because, trust me, I've had people step over me doing color, and it doesn't sound good. It's unprofessional. And unfortunately, it's part of the game again, but you got a former player, talking over you, then, you're like, hey, look, shut up. Let me call the play, then you talk. Simple. I mean,
my question to that is, how the hell do you tell Tom Brady, who has 7 Super Bowl rings, to shut up?
I mean, he's saying, pardon me, Mr. Sir, would you please shut your friggin' mouth while I say touchdown?
But that would be the thing, right? It's like, if Jordan's in the booth with you and Jordan's telling a story and there's a game-winning 3, he'll let the 3 happen, right?
Yeah.
It's Jordan.
Go ahead.
It's Brady.
Go ahead. Now you continue to call the game, sir.
I feel like Kevin Burkhardt is in a very unenviable position of having to be the guy that's there with Brady and try to be the guy in charge of it.
Well, yeah, and that's also another thing is the chemistry between the guy doing play-by and color. I mean, again, the guy doing color is only as good as the guy doing play-by sometimes. So if you're working with a buffoon, they're going to make you sound worse as well. That's another thing people don't consider.
And then there's Pat Summerall and John Madden, who set the bar for everybody.
Sure.
Well, I mean, even Al Michaels and all the broadcast teams that he was a part of, Howard Cosell, all these guys.
Yeah.
But the thing is one of the criticisms I heard was that, he doesn't give enough emotion. Like there should be when the Dallas Cowboys scored a touchdown, you'd be like, oh yeah, that. And then the flip side of that coin is, how many times do people hate on Tony Romo for being that emotional?
You don't want to be the hometown guy. I mean, exactly.
I also think that Tom Brady's never going to be a hometown guy with the Cowboys. He hates that team.
Yes, he does, more than likely. But I mean, again, it's called being unbiased. It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, you got. I don't care how much you love the team. If you're broadcasting the game, you have to be unbiased. That's just the bottom line.
That would be a hard thing for us to do, Brandon, because we talk about teams that we love. We love the Dallas Cowboys. They're 1-0 right now. But we also love the UTEP Miners. And the UTEP Miners last week really let us down.
And here's the thing. You now have to have the skills of John Teicher, who can make a dog of a game sound really exciting. Look at the spin that he put on last year's opener. Be here for history in the making, as UTEP could possibly win its first home opener in I forget how many years.
God. The fact that has to be part of a commercial. But you're right. That's what it takes on the commentator, especially, right? If it's a blowout of a game, if there's nothing exciting going on, the commentator has to make it either 1, exciting, or 2, interesting.
Right.
And that's where you hear the random stories, and that's what I'm really waiting for, right? Whenever Tom Brady gets that game where it's 45-10 in the third quarter, and then they get the stories from Tom Brady. I think that is what's going to prove invaluable in the long run. But if you're going to have some really close games, you're not probably going to get those stories and things like that come out of it. But going back over to the UTEP Miners, this team had, again, and I hate saying this because there shouldn't ever be, but they had the weight of expectation on them, right? You are the UTEP Miners. You're the bigger team here. You should win this game against Southern Utah. And we spoke about it last week, and we said this is a game, if you're UTEP, you kind of have to win.
Yeah.
You cannot start the Scotty Walden era 0-2.
Yes.
And you're staring down the barrel right now of 0-3 because Liberty's pretty damn good too.
Yes, they are.
So as we get into this portion of the season and we're looking at the UTEP Miners, I don't know if we've seen enough, though, to say we know what the identity of this team is.
We have no idea. I mean, look, you can jump up all you want on the sideline. That's great. I like that energy. I like that emotion. But if you don't win, then all you do is you look like a buffoon going nuts. Look, I have nothing against the emotion. It's something we haven't seen for a long time with this program, okay? But the bottom line is you've got to make better decisions on the field. And look, Utah, they should have won that game over and over again. They kept finding ways to lose that game. And really, UTEP had no business losing that game. But, I mean, the fact is that your kicker can't make a kick to save his life. I don't know what the hell that was in overtime. I couldn't even see the ball. It was so far wide left. I was watching, on television. But I think that it comes down to just a few basic things. I mean, you can't deviate away from what's working in the first half when you have a big lead, okay? And, I mean, I think that it really, the X's and the O's, they seem like they have some talent, but you have to be able to use it wisely. And ultimately, you just can't keep shooting yourself in the foot.
I think that's the thing, right? Is I'll accept the growing pains. This is a new coach bringing in a new system, trying to spark up an interest in a fan base that has been deprived of success for the better part of half a century. Let's think about that, right? 50 years of history of this team just ain't that damn good.
Right, exactly.
And then now you have the weight of expectations from fans of this guy came in,
yep,
he needs to get us to a bowl game.
For sure.
And the expectation of the fan is he needs to get us to that bowl game today.
Right.
They're not going to be patient enough to say, let's wait.
You have to, though. You have to.
And that's my biggest concern here is you already hear the rumblings from the fans.
Well,
We're
pissed
two
off.
games in.
Right, and one game was at Nebraska.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was no excuse for not winning last week's game. But again, you're dealing with still Coach Dimmel's team. Okay, you have you brought in your own players, but the first year is always going to be extremely challenging because unless they left you with a great team, then more than likely you're going to struggle. Now you can only bring in so many of your own players, right? I mean, he brought in his own quarterback, he's brought in other personnel, but again, it's to be determined, and it's not going to be an easy road for me because they're going to start 0-3 more than likely.
And that's the thing, right? Is it's not just the quarterback and the other positions.
It's the lack of discipline too.
It's a total of 47 transfers they had come into this team.
Wow.
That you have to try to get all on the same page.
Sure.
Along with the fact of now you're trying to manage personalities and ego and a bunch of other things like that happen. And like you said, the discipline issues.
Yes.
Tom Brady said it best. It's hard to move forward if you keep moving backwards, right?
True. It's
20 yards is harder to get than 10 yards.
It is.
100%. So the UTEP Miners need to find a way, and again, this is what's going to fall on the coach. How many times have we said it with Mike McCarthy and the Dallas Cowboys that whenever they're undisciplined, it ain't necessarily on the players. It's always on the coaching staff, making sure these players know what they're supposed to do at the right times of the game.
In fact, Tom Brady even appreciated Bill Belichick being as hard on him, or as Bill Brady said, he was honest with me.
Yeah, because you need that. You need a coach who's not just going to be your friend, but also hold you accountable for what you need to do. And I hope that Scotty Walden, I think he can be that guy.
Yeah.
But there's also a part of me that says he came into this so rah. And I told you flat out, day one, whenever I saw that he was the hire, I didn't know what to feel about it. Once I saw the energy, I was like, I'm in on this guy.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
He
because
sold me.
it's contagious. It really is contagious. But now you have to say, okay, is the rah coach going to be able to get the kids disciplined?
Or do they need a jerk?
Exactly.
Somebody that's really going to not, like you said, kind of not be your best friend in the world, but make sure that they let you know the importance of winning versus I'm going to be your buddy.
And nobody did that better than the Bear in basketball. Look, there were stories. One of the players during the eulogy said the greatest compliment that Don Haskins paid me was when he finally said, "Well, you're now qualified to guard a telephone pole."
I mean, come on, man, right?
That's honesty.
But the fact of the matter still remains is UTEP now starts the season, starts the Scotty Walden era 0-2. I've been trying to look for positives in this, and I don't know if I could find any, right? Because we've seen them be able to move the ball. We're watching an offense that everyone has wanted for a while. Right. It's a vertical offense. Mm-hmm. It's going to be fun. I don't think it's going to be fun this year while they try to get all the kinks worked out, but it's going to be fun in the future. I think that would be the one positive that I could find with this team. But I'm looking at so many more negatives that it's hard to focus in on that one positive.
Well, it is because they've looked good at times, but they can't look good through a whole game so far. And they continue to, again, it's like, there's 4 quarters to a football game. There's not just 2 quarters to a football game or one drive. And can you be consistent throughout the whole game, or are other teams going to be able to figure out, that maybe you're a one-trick pony right away? And that's the thing, is we're still trying to figure it out ourselves. I mean, we need some more games to see what's going on here. Yeah, of course.
Like everything there
Give
is
him the benefit of the doubt because again, look who you have.
This year for me is, let's find out what this team is going to be, right? Like we're setting the barometer. This is where the floor is going to be. First year for any coach is always going to be difficult. Let's establish the base and then focus in on next year, on what the growth and the pros and cons for next year can be.
His team.
And I feel kind of weird saying that as a sports fan, because that's not how we act anymore.
Right.
We don't give coaches time anymore. But I also know there should be no expectations, even in his 5th year, for this UTEP team, because that's just what it is.
Yeah, it's UTEP.
Yeah.
I mean, it's UTEP.
3.5 wins over 114 years of football.
It doesn't change very often.
No.
When you can count on one hand bowl appearances, and then we're not talking about wins, we're talking about
bowl appearances
in the last 50 years. Does that sound
mean? In what, the 87 years of bowls that or is it 90 almost now?
Yeah.
So we're looking at almost 90 years of bowl games that have been around. UTEP has played in a total of 10.
Wow.
So, I mean, we can count on one hand the amount of bowl wins or bowl appearances in the last half century. They've played in 10 total bowl games since the advent of bowl games, and most of them have been the Sun Bowl.
That's what I was going to say. But I remember half of them.
Yeah.
Think about it. Within the last 20 years, we'll call it the last 24 years, because I remember 2000. The Humanitarian Bowl, then there was the Price era and the GNAC Bowl and the Houston Bowl, right? And then, of course, there was the New Mexico Bowls. That's 5, one under Kugler and one under Price. And then, am I missing any? Oh, there was also a New Mexico Bowl, I guess, a few years ago. There's another one. Oh, am I missing? Right? That was one of the 2. That's right. It was with the Kugler. So that's 5
where
bowls.
They had that trick play, and ESPN thought they were going to win. And
they were playing. Was it BYU or Utah State? I think it was Utah State.
It was something.
But anyways, long story short.
It wasn't Southern Utah.
No, it wasn't Southern. But that's 5 in the last how many years? And then there was 88. There was always 88.
Yeah.
We always have 88.
We always look back on that
won
one,
10
buddy.
games. We won 10 games. It was a big deal because they haven't won 10 games since.
So you look at that in an almost, 36-year period.
Well,
you've made a grand total of 6 bowl games. Wow. So we know they're good for a bowl game every 6 years.
Right.
That's what history would say.
And you ain't trying to win a big bowl game. You're trying to win the New Mexico Bowl.
Yeah,
I mean?
I would be happy with just like the Las Cruces Bowl if they ever made it, right? Like a nacho bowl, a taco bowl. Let's win one of these things. I'd be anything because we've been so damn deprived. There's a part of me that wants to get our own bowl games, Brandon. Like I'll sponsor a bowl game. We can hold it at the SAC and have them play against a middle school team just so UTEP can get the damn win and get them. Get that one. Oh my God. Well, the 1935 Sun Bowl, UTEP, Texas Western at that time. Lost to El Paso High at El Paso High in the Sun Bowl
game. Was that not foreshadowing?
Maybe that's what we can do. We could build up the rivalry for the next decade, and then the 100-year anniversary of that, we can have them play against each other.
Right. And El Paso High still wins. Playing at Jones Stadium.
Dominating performance. Once again, it is Fire and Ice. We are over here at Union DraftHouse. Brandon, you know one of my favorite things here at Union DraftHouse is trying to be a part of their Century Club.
Oh, you're still doing that?
Yes, I am. I am on beer number 53. And beer number 53, Brandon, is one of your favorite types of beers. This is
Michelob
the
Ultra.
Michelob Ultra. That is number 53 on here. I have 54 that I've already consumed over the last couple of I guess years.
That's pretty impressive. So,
right?
so we're halfway there. We're more than halfway there, right?
We're halfway
there. Whoa.
Drinking lots of beer.
Yeah, there you go.
I should have been a musician.
Yes, you should have.
But again, the Michelob Ultra, that's number 53 on the Century Club. Now, what happens is whenever you finish all 100 beers, you get a lifetime 10% discount over here at not just this Union DraftHouse or whatever Union DraftHouse you completed it at all 6 locations now of Union DraftHouse throughout El Paso. We have 2 on the west side, 2 on the far east side, 1 down in Horizon, and then now they finally built one in the northeast of El Paso. All over the place, you can get Union DraftHouse. They have great daily specials all the time, and of course, they're friends for us over here at Fire and Ice. We come here way too often. I think they know us by first name. I walked in today, and it was almost like we had not left for 6 months.
Yeah, no kidding. It was like old home week. They were very happy to see me as well, and I get my club soda, and I'm happy, and it's a great place.
He's the happiest guy in the world when he gets his club soda.
my club soda.
He'll never eat a dog as long as he has
never eat a
soda.
dog or a cat. Leave the dogs alone.
Again, I can't believe that's something that someone actually said during the presidential
Read
debate, but
the
that'll be a
dogs.
different topic for a different time. Okay, so I'm looking at some of the stuff that's going to be happening this week, Brandon. We're looking forward to now our UTEP minors on the road in Virginia, an East Coast time zone. We broke the curse of that losing streak last year against FIU, or I guess it was Charlotte, whoever we beat, Middle Tennessee. And now we're back in Virginia taking on Liberty. We saw Liberty. I don't know if you watched that game last week on ESPN2 or not. I did, where Liberty was able to come from behind and beat New Mexico State. That was a hell of a game. 2 great down-to-the-wire games here in the borderland. What are we expecting from UTEP in this game? What should we expect from UTEP in this game?
Well, what you should not expect is a win, unfortunately. I mean, because it is Liberty, and they are one of the better teams in CUSA, and they should, in theory, win CUSA and compete, right? But I mean, what you should expect, that your realistic expectation should be that hopefully they're at least competitive, if not throughout the whole game, then at least a half. I mean, and they mix it up more offensively, and they look a little sharper in certain areas, and they are able to hopefully correct the kicking game to some extent, and that you see things that maybe you didn't see last week. You don't see as many penalties.
Speaking of things to be seen, does UTEP have access to Virginia's films?
No, not at all. Oh, of course they do. I'm just kidding with you. I'm busting your balls. No, of course, this is 2024, Dave. Of course they have their films.
And maybe some of that strategery, as George W. would say, would involve learning from those films and planning their games around the weaknesses of the other team.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean,
that's the important.
it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
Especially whenever you have a team that has an established brand, an established coaching staff, established players. UTEP is, I hate saying it this way because they come into this season as the team that has the most question marks around them, despite the fact that they feel like they've been that team for forever, right? We're starting from new. So we can say, yeah, that's the weakness of this team, but we don't know if we have the weapons right now to be able to attack it. And until we know that we have those weapons, then it's just basically rolling the dice and seeing what happens. I'm not saying that UTEP, that the expectation for UTEP should be like an 0-12 season or anything like that. By no means. It's so hard to not win games, just as equally as it is to go it's as hard to go as winless as it is to go undefeated, right? So for me, they're going to find a groove, but it's going to be hard these first couple of weeks.
No matter how much prep you do.
Exactly, because you don't know who's going to fit into what spot as of right now, especially because, like Brandon said, in college it's so much easier for you to find someone who just from one year to the next went from being the guy that was the last person on the bench to an all-star and a potential NFL draft pick.
And a good team will always change their game plans
Oh, yeah.
based on their opponent, and you may not see the same team that won or lost the previous week. So it's all a chess game. We know it as well as that. So, but with that being said, sure, as a coach, you have to watch film. I mean, you'd be an idiot not to try to prepare your team as much as you can. But that doesn't mean that it's going to work. You know what I mean?
Because the film may not be the reality of the game.
You may not also be as good as the other team.
That's
the bottom line.
But talent and preparation will always beat just preparation.
Sure.
Because at times talent will take over, and that's where you see the division of some of these things. I mean, even that Nebraska game, Nebraska is at best middle of the road team,
but they're a
in
Power
the Big
5.
Ten.
Yeah, but they're
but
Power
they
5.
would dominate, and you saw the difference in talent versus UTEP.
Sure, and UTEP is terrible on the road. they just usually don't win on the road, and they never win on the East Coast. So can I continue? I mean, I remember the games.
We got one.
What, beg your pardon?
We got one last year. We got to win.
Yeah, out of the last 100.
Wow,
1 in 100 ain't bad, right? I mean, I remember when we used to do women's basketball games in Norfolk, Virginia, and I used to see the old DU football stadium, beautiful stadium. You could see the bay from there and all that. And I was thinking, man, it'd be nice to get a win out in the East Coast or even it being in Florida or anything like that. But then in the back of my mind, remembering that UTEP just doesn't usually win when they go travel anywhere, much or less the East Coast, right? Yeah. Can USA move away from the East Coast, please?
My response to that would be they hardly win at home.
Yeah. Or at El Paso High. I mean, it doesn't. What does it work?
0-1 at RR Jones.
That's funny. The first couple Sun Bowls were there too. That's funny,
Okay, so looking at the Conference USA standings, obviously there's only been one conference game in Conference USA, and it is Liberty taking on New Mexico State. Liberty got the win last week against New Mexico State. I was really hoping that New Mexico State would be able to pull out the upset here because it would have been some sort of retribution for losing the Conference USA championship game last year, right? But Liberty goes in, they're able to complete the comeback, they're able to beat New Mexico State at New Mexico State, and now they're 1-0 in conference, 2-0 overall.
I'm trying to smile. I'm trying to hold my breath.
I was doing the same
do I
thing.
look skinny if I hold my breath?
So Liberty 2-0 overall. That has them at the top of the standings in Conference USA. Then Louisiana Tech 1-0, Sam Houston, Middle Tennessee State, FIU, Western Kentucky, New Mexico State, all tied at 1-1.
No, FIU.
UTEP, Kennesaw State, and Jax State at the bottom at 0-2. UTEP right here. This is going to be their first conference game taking on Liberty. And again, I don't know what the expectations for here should be. So now I just want a competitive game.
Yeah, that's
right?
it. That's all.
Don't get blown out.
Right.
Because you don't
stay within 2 touchdowns. Right? If you can. Don't play piss poor throughout the whole game. Don't.
I guess like 2 touchdowns because there was a part of this. I just don't lose by 28.
What's the spread?
I have no idea.
It's got to be. It's got to be significant.
Well,
right?
UTEP has one advantage. They don't have the restrictions from the NFL union as to how often they can practice, right?
Yeah, I mean, there are some types of things, but it's a lot more difficult getting the practice schedules in because of classes and all that stuff. Supposed to be. What's the spread?
23.5 points.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Wow.
I think 17 would be more of what I would try to keep.
But I mean, I don't disagree with it per se, especially as
because you
UTEP lost to Southern Utah last month.
But Southern Utah's a historical powerhouse.
Because they're from where again?
Cedar City, Utah.
It's funny you remember that.
The fact that's a huge metropolitan area. Was their coach able to talk shit or what? Oh, as if he wasn't talking enough before the game, right?
That's for a Donald Trump impression. The other team's leader, his impression was huge.
Huge. It was phenomenal. They're eating all the dogs here.
That right there, that would be the best one.
All the dogs. Where are all the dogs?
Everyone knows Cedar City, Utah, right? Cedar City, Utah.
Historic Cedar City.
Not just historic, but it's one of those random places that not just has a beach, but mountain views.
Yes.
And tropical and rainforest and every type of scenery you can imagine.
Claim to fame is like Bryce National Park, or I don't know.
I think one of these days I'm gonna plan a trip to Cedar City, Utah,
Yeah.
and just be like, I'd plant a UTEP flag.
Yeah, there you go. For the
Like,
coach.
we have claimed
in the coach's yard.
I claim this in the name of UTEP.
Yeah. I love UTEP. You wear all your UTEP gear in Utah?
I hardly wear my UTEP gear here.
Yeah, you do once in a while.
I know. I'm a proud alum, even though I'm a Texas Tech fan.
I know. So,
are we taking, like, what are we doing? What's going on here?
What are we doing here?
Is it a video or is it
a video? What are you doing? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Yes.
Well, even Martha Stewart looked good in orange. Why not us?
Yes, that's right. That's a funny line. Many fine books have been written in prison. Anyways,
we feel like we're in a prison. Right? We've been in a prison of losses for the last half century, or I guess full century. 114 years of 3.5 win seasons.
Hey, at least there's a half.
Yes, there is. That means there's the opportunity for a fourth win.
You're saying there's a chance.
Yeah, that's what matters, my guy. We could possibly get that fourth win.
A chance.
Okay, and then New Mexico State, as we said, just lost to Liberty.
Right.
They are going to be on the road in Fresno, taking on Fresno State. Friend of the show, Mike Golick Jr. is going to be on the call for that game as well. You can watch that on ESPN2 again. New Mexico State getting a lot of ESPN love.
Well, they should. I mean, they're a competitive franchise, franchise program. Why not? I mean, they've been a hell of a lot more competitive than UTEP has been. And again, you keep getting good coaches. They had Coach Kill there for a good while and winning the bowl game. And I mean, you should get national exposure, right? When you win. That
shows you.
I mean, that's all it takes is to win.
That shows you how not just important but lucrative it can be to win a singular bowl game.
Right.
New Mexico State had a bowl game drought longer than what UTEP had up until the point where New Mexico State won that bowl game in 2017, I want to say it was.
Yes, I believe it was.
Then they get the bowl game win. They get the money that comes along with the bowl game. They've gotten the exposure of being a team that Scott Van Pelt loves to bet on because they're always in bad beats. They're always getting some sort of things like that, right? And now because they're a team that's been getting a lot of exposure, they're getting the talent.
Right.
They're being able to say, look, we have a history now of us making it to bowl games and us winning bowl games. They're 2-3, or 2-1 in their last 3 bowl games.
It's impressive.
So this is a team that's now establishing some sort of line. So it's not like it's impossible for UTEP to get there. They just need to get there. And the fans, to me, and it feels bad saying this is 114 years of growing pains, but you gotta. It's so early to even be contemplating giving up on Scotty Walden.
Of course,
we've heard this left and right already.
Well, that's the fans. The fans are so disgusted. But one other thing about NMSU is they've been entertaining to watch.
Yeah,
they've kept their fans' interest. They really have. There's been a reason why you want to go see that team play. But yeah, I mean, again, you have to be a realist and say that this first year could very well be a wash. And I mean, it so far it has not looked great, but. Again, you have to find your identity. You have to find your identity as a coach, as a program. And right now, this team has none, unfortunately, right now.
So now my question to you is, was Southern Utah a money game? Like, did we pay Southern Utah to come here?
I would think so. I mean, it should have been, to me,
At least we weren't Notre Dame.
Thank God, because you lost by 2, right? They paid them how much? $4 million or something to beat their asses?
4.5.
That was nice. I like seeing things like that. You're a Rudy who?
Well, I'm not. I think Notre Dame's overrated.
They
anyway.
are.
Okay, but before we move on from the college football landscape right here, I wanted to get your opinion on something, Brandon, which is the possibility that Deion Sanders told the Colorado band that they are not allowed to play the fight song. Instead, whenever Shador scores a touchdown, they are to play his rap album.
I mean, it's Deion, man. I'm not surprised. I have a Deion Sanders story. So it was 96. I was a senior in high school, and I was part of a charity. Well, I wasn't playing in the game, but Lou Romano, great buddy of mine, and Cappy, he had me doing an internship at KVI ABC7 as a senior, and he got me a press pass because the Cowboys were playing a charity basketball game here, and Deion was playing, Leon Lett, Michael Irvin, and Deion, like literally, like I remember standing there, I'm a kid, right, trying to shake his hand. He like walks like this close to me, walks right out and just ignores me completely. This is when he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated with the half Niners, half Cowboys. How many was so famous, right? And ever since then, I've been like, Dion's a jerk, and I don't know the guy, I haven't seen him since then, but I thought, God, he's an arrogant fella. And it sucks because, as a coach, you got to be a people's coach. You got to be a player's coach. You have to understand the scenario that you're in overall. And I don't think that he's rubbing people the right way. And I understand what happened with the reporter where he banned them from sometimes they can be real jerks and they can say stupid things. But you don't mess with the band. I mean, the band is on the field. You got to appreciate that's part of college sports. That's part of high school sports. Having the band there, having the kids on the field with the flags, and I mean that's college athletics. If you're going to ban them, then ban the fans.
Dion has gone on record and said that it is ridiculous, but he hasn't denied sane.
Oh, then there you go.
And that to me is one of those things that's like, all right, well, yeah, it's ridiculous, sure.
Yeah.
But is there a possibility that you might have said this ridiculous thing?
It is very, very possible that he said this thing.
The thing to me, though, is that with Deion Sanders comes a lot now of negative attention.
Yes.
And you cannot be the coach of the team and have all the attention on you in that type of light and expect to be successful.
No.
Nick Saban had a ton of attention on him, right?
Right.
Kirby Smart, Dabo Swinney, all these coaches had a lot of attention on them.
Yes, absolutely.
But that attention was given to them because they won.
Winning solves everything, doesn't it?
Not because of what they were saying and not because of them banning reporters and all that other nonsense.
Yeah, and last year was a debacle. I mean, we were watching them play TCU when we were doing the show Union East. Remember that? We're like, oh, this team could be real. And they fooled us because he started off strong and then just was pathetic the rest of the year. So, I mean, ultimately, it again, it's nice to be prime time. It's nice to get everybody excited. It's nice to do what Coach Walden is doing. But if you're not getting results in the end, the fans aren't going to care. You know what I mean? They really aren't. We know the bottom line. We know what everybody's looking for. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
That's
sir.
it.
Okay, so right now on Fire and Ice, and we're going to take a little bit of a break. Whenever we come back, Brandon, let us know who we are going to be talking to whenever we come back here on Fire and Ice.
Coronado football coach Mike Pry. He's a good friend of mine. He was class of 95. I was class of 97. I've known him for a long time. Took over the reins here a couple of years ago, and Coronado is one of the up-and-coming programs in the city. So Coach Pry has graciously offered some time to join us, and he will be joining us on our Prep One Coaches segment coming up after this break here, only on our Deer Show Fire and Ice. How you doing, bud?
Water, baby. Look, I can't help but think that now might be a good time for a little fire and ice.
There's never a good time for fire and ice.
What happens when you mix fire and ice?
Warm water, baby.
Oh, this is embarrassing.
It's bubbling.
It's bubbling, baby.
Warm water! Warm water! Fire and ice. Warm water!
What happens when you mix fire and ice?
Warm water, baby. Warm water, baby.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Fire and Ice. We're doing now our Prep 1 Coaches segment. We're joined right now by Coronado football coach Mike Pry joining us. Thank you very much for being here, Coach. First off, tell me how the season's going so far.
So far, so good. 2-0, and kids are playing hard. Coaches are doing their thing, and it's fun to be 2-0.
So big deal. You come back to your alma mater to take over a program that had struggled for so many years, and you're turning things around. I mean, last year you ended up red hot. We were talking at the end of the year. You were like, we've done a lot at the end of the year. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're going to get in because it's like too little too late. You won your last 4 games, but you start off 2-0. It's a new season. You're able to get that week 1 game in against Burgess, even though the game was canceled against Americus because of the rain and the lightning and thunder. You got to feel good about where things are going with this program right now.
Yeah, we've got some momentum. Our kids have really bought into what we're doing. Kudos to Coach Luna over at Burgess for taking the last-minute game when he really didn't have to. He stepped up and really, came to our rescue a little bit to allow us to have a game because we're down to a 9-game season with Eagle Pass backing out this week. That would have given us 8 games. And so, huge shout-out to Bernie Luna for not being afraid to play at any given moment.
How do you communicate to your kids, especially the players, like, look, I know we prepped for one team, and now at the last minute we're going to have to get another game in here.
Sure.
What's that conversation like for you, or is it more of a, you know what, let's just kind of pull back on the reins? Like how do you handle that as a coach?
You just treat it as a normal practice. You go in and get better at what you do. Luckily, their defense was very similar to what we were preparing for in America's. Offensively, they did some different stuff, but I think our kids were just excited after about a 2-hour weather delay, and then America's not being able to play. They were just excited to play. So it was just like, let's go out there and do what you do and have some fun and play football. It was different from a coaching aspect because normally we've got everything X, Y, and Z, but it was just, let's go out and play football.
But before you get to that,
yeah.
Was there any point whenever you're here in El Paso, you think to yourself, we're going to have a football game delayed by rain?
No. Well, it wasn't the rain, it was the lightning.
Oh, the lightning. There we go. Yes.
So we can play in rain all day long. Last year, 2 years ago with El Dorado, we played in a monsoon, but the lightning, it's just, this year's been kind of weird because our scrimmage was delayed. Then week 1 was ultimately delayed and then forfeited. So it's just one of those things. We can't control it. We just got to be ready to go whenever, anywhere, any place, anytime.
But the tropical rainforest known as El Paso, Texas.
Yes.
Well,
is what
it
we
was
got
all
that
late August. I mean, and people don't realize the significance of being able to actually play that first game because you've been off for like 6 months and the kids are desperate to get some time in because
Sure.
you can play all the scrimmages, you can have all the practices, but the real McCoy means everything to you guys.
For sure. Yeah, you can't replicate game speed in practice. And so that's why each and every game is valuable. And, we're only guaranteed 10 games this year, 9 games. And so every game is valuable.
Looking at the at what you got coming next, what game do you have highlighted on there? Is it just, are you one of those guys like we're just on to next week? Like we're on to Cincinnati?
We're on it. Yeah, exactly. We're every week is important. This week we face Parkland, so we've been preparing for Parkland. And then the Sun Bowls after that with Franklin. So that's a game that's always been scheduled for both us and them. But you have to take it week by week. Anybody can beat anybody at any given time. So you have to prepare every week. And then, but the Franklin game is always a big game for us.
Yeah, I covered the Andrus game. I was impressed with the offensive pieces. Of course, you, a former offensive lineman, your ground game. Of course, your quarterbacks. You have 2 quarterbacks, Wilson and Wes Stansberry, the freshman. Who saw him throw a couple passes. He's got some interesting form. He's a big boy. He's not 6'4" or something as a freshman. You have some pieces that I like. Case Golding, great 2-way player. Coach Golding's sons, both of them there.
Yes, sir.
Your thoughts on your offense so far, and as a whole in the defense, of course, too.
Sure. Offensively, I was really proud and impressed with our running back play. Cody Hunt stepped up, and his vision is really good. He runs hard. He's a shorter back, but he really gets north and south really quick. And then Norman Montillon, they'll split times because they're both playing defense as well. But they really kind of complement each other. And obviously it starts up front. Caden Deitch and Brian Frias and Jaden Dorman with Frankie Zamora and Christian Olivas. They do a good job clearing holes up front. Our receivers block fairly well, even though we got some holding calls that were questionable on some receivers. But, it starts up front. And it's scheme-wise is pretty good. And they got after it.
What's your number one message that you give to your athletes, right? Is it we've got to be good in just the classroom? Is it we've got to be good all around? But like, in order for a kid to play for you, what are you looking for?
I think they have to realize that we love them first. Once we love them, we can get in there and modify a lot of things as far as their attitude, their abilities. But once the kids know that we truly do love these kids, then we can get in there and really get after them. I'm really proud that, eligibility check came out yesterday. I think we lost 1 kid out of 140. So that was a good thing. And, the kids just have to buy into what we're doing. Once they bought in, they'll understand that I might not always agree with what's being done, but they know that we have their best interest in mind.
We talked briefly about that Franklin game. That's always been one of the biggest games of the year. The West Side Bowl is a game that Franklin's dominated in recent years. Talk about, the kids and their thoughts and your thoughts about finally getting that W and taking care of business in that game.
It's huge. It's huge. Last year we lost by 1 point. We had 17 penalties. 6 of them were either position changing possessions or drive killers or drive continuers. So that was huge last year, but we've got to win that game. It sets our kids in a kind of a downward spiral if we don't, and it kind of propels them up if we do. There's a lot of momentum that handles with that game.
You and Brandon are both alumni of Coronado High School. Did you know Brandon back in high school?
Absolutely. We didn't hang out a lot, but yeah, we knew each other.
Yeah.
For sure.
What was he like in high school? Because I need to figure this one out.
Same as he is now. He's everybody's friend. Everybody's friend.
Yeah, Mike was my buddy back
Yeah.
then too.
Ah.
He didn't acknowledge me, but because he was part of a great Coronado team. But no, I'm like, hey, coach, and now it's like it's like old home league
Yeah.
Mike.
No, we had a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah, we did. It was a party school back then, wasn't it?
Still
man?
is.
Yeah, we had a good time back
We
then.
have a rowdy student section that likes to
Yeah.
pregame.
Yeah, they do. They never sit down, man. I went to see my daughter when she's on the flag team for Coronado to visit her, and the kids are still Meshuggah. I noticed when I'm walking by, I'm like trying to like get around, and they're throwing smoke bombs and all this crap. I'm like, yeah, same old
Yep.
Coronado.
They enjoy their high school years.
Mhm.
I don't know if they remember him, but they enjoy
Yeah,
him.
not much. Right.
Okay, so what do you remember of your high school years?
Obviously, and we tell this to our kids all the time, is you won't remember much that happens in the academic settings for us, but they'll remember everything in the locker room. I can recite every single score from my game my senior year. And it's not, I have a hard time remembering my kids' birthdays, but I can remember every single football game score that we played in. And I think that's what I miss the most, and that I try to instill in the kids is to the locker room. You'll go back in 30 years from now, your reunion, you remember, hey, remember when so-and-so did this in the locker room, or so-and-so did this on the field. So that's what I, instill in the most, is to remember and enjoy it. Like you said, we only get 9 games this year for our seniors. So enjoy every single guaranteed 9. Now, hopefully we have more towards the end of the year with the playoffs, but enjoy it. And after every game, I'll always tell our kids, and I've told them since we've been there, go up and find someone that came to support you, whether it's your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your friend, your girlfriend, whatever it may be. Go find someone and thank them. Thank them for taking time out of the day to come support us, and that's important to me.
Coach Brooks was legendary. You were able to play for him, and I was able to be there briefly and play under him. But, what's it mean to you to be able to carry on that legacy and now kind of carve out your own niche in a
Sure.
storied program here?
It's special. I'm the 4th head coach in Coronado history, and Coronado's been open since 1962 or something.
Yeah.
So following in the footsteps of Coach Quarles, Coach Brooks, Coach Anderson, it's special. It's something that I remember when I was in high school, I'd go sit in Coach Brooks's office, and it smelled like old oysters. And you know that smell, right?
Yeah.
You remember it.
Oh, yeah.
And he would say, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Coach, I want your job." "Well, you're not going to get it."
That was Coach
And
Brooks.
I said, "Man, that's what I wanted to do." And it's funny that the first day I was on the job in the old office underneath the stadium, I was sitting at his desk, because it's the same desk he had, and it reeked of oysters. And I said, "Man, like, this is kind of cool. Like,
Right?
it's kind of come full circle." So I think it's important, and I think it's important to get Coronado back on the map and in the right direction than it's been the last several years.
Tell me you actually cleaned it up and it don't smell like oysters
I didn't touch it.
anymore.
I didn't touch
Oh.
it. No, it's kind of like washing that old T-shirt. That's your good luck charm.
Yeah.
But
okay.
we did move to the new facility, so we're not in that building anymore. But no, I didn't touch it, and I don't think it had been touched in about 15 years.
So now it's
great.
become like a good luck charm. Like
Yes.
that's what it is now.
Yes, and it's funny because Mrs. Brooks, Coach Brooks' wife, gave me a Buckeye, and it's an old Buckeye that he had. Someone had given him as good luck, and he always had it in his pocket for game days. So now I have it in my pocket for game days. So she had given me that, and then he has a little card that was a 2-point, when to go for 2-point card. She gave me that as well. So I keep both of those in my front pocket during games.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. So you have some challenging games coming up
Sure.
because 6A is here, obviously, and the talk about the rigor of playing in such a great district here in El Paso.
6A is tough. It's a grind every week, and it's whether it's Eastwood or Pebble Hills or Montwood or Socorro or Eastlake, Franklin. There are no gimmies. Socorro had a big win last night, and it's every week you better be able to come to play, and you better minimize your mistakes. I think if we can minimize our mistakes this year and execute, we'll be okay. But every week you're going to face some dudes, and there is no bye weeks in 6A football in El Paso.
Sure.
Who are some of the players that you want to personally highlight for us to, be on the lookout for? Who are those guys that are your team leaders that you just want to show a little bit of love to right now?
Our team captains, it's Kason Golding was a 2-year unanimous selection from his teammates. Lucas Gonzalez is a 2-year captain. Scott Strachan is a 2-year captain. And then we kind of rotate that 4th captain based on who was the player of the week. So it's been Mariano Fernandez, who's an outside linebacker. Cody Hunt will be one of our captains as well. But, there's just so many kids that do their job. That it's everybody up front on the offensive line. The defensive line we've had to replace altogether. They've done a phenomenal job with Sebastian Arrieta and Robert Serrano and John Baniak and Alex Cabrera. And there's just TJ Spillier's done a really good job. Norman Montillon's done a good job. I mean, it's really, we've got a good team. We're not one or two players. Ben Wilson obviously does what he does. So there's just a bunch of kids that are doing good team football. So that's what I'm proud of.
It must be obviously meaningful for the kids to see things how they've turned around, but what do you feel it would mean to be able to finish the season strong and ultimately bring this team back to the postseason?
That's the goal.
Yeah.
We talk to the kids every week and every year about what are their goals, and this year was last year was the same. It's you ask the kids what are their goals, and it's funny because they always have team goals first, and I test them like, what are your goals? And I expect them, I want 3 touchdowns or 2 interceptions, but we have very few kids that are selfish. They all say, hey, we want to get back into the playoffs. We want to hoist up a gold football at the end of the year. And, it's going to be important to get Coronado back on the map and make the playoffs.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, I'll tell you what, this has been wonderful having you on.
It's been fun. Thank
Fire
you.
and Ice. And I thought about it after I saw you a couple weeks ago. You said, hey, if you ever need anything, I was like, let me email him. Because Tipton said to me, you been on the west side? I said, yeah, my buddy Mike. Let's get a hold of him and see if he comes on. In fact, you're here in person. We really appreciate you.
Thank you guys for everything, and thanks for highlighting our kids. I know they talk about it a lot, and it's special to them, the work that you guys put in. So that doesn't go unnoticed as well.
Appreciate that.
Mike, thank you so much. Brandon, if
Yes,
you want
sir.
to, go ahead and go over some of the scores that we can highlight over here. Coach, let's see if you want to stick around with us, give us a little reaction to what some of the scores are as well. Brandon's going to recap the game that he was at yesterday, which was Del Valle and who?
So I had a really good game. I mean, it was interesting. You would have thought it'd be a good game, but Del Valle hosts El Paso High for their first district game of the year. And I'll tell you what, look, Del Valle just is amazing. I mean, I think they're the best team in the city. They won 62-6. It was like 41 or 42-0 at half. And Jake Fetty is the best quarterback in the city. Hands down. ASU was there. The head coach was there after the victory at Texas State. And the quarterback's coach for SMU was there. He was talking to Mrs. Fetty, the mom, and he said, I just offered him a scholarship. So this kid's going to get amazing offers. He only played a half, but he was like 14 of 19 for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, it was an amazing performance. It was something to watch. It really was. Okay, so let's go over the scores. How about your El Dorado Aztecs? I mean, I guess they are for real. 49-28 over the Mountwood Rams. Cathedral, they're like 3-0. 53-12 over Anthony. The Austin Panthers, I know that team. They win their first district game 34-14 over Mountain View. La Bowie wins 35-19 over Fabens. Riverside 24-23 in a squeaker against Clint. It was Isleta 45-6 over San Eli, and Andrus 61-6 over Jeff. Andrus, your team you just beat recently, and I'll tell you what, they could score too.
They're good. Andrus,
not bad.
They've got some players in their new offense this year with Coach Redding kind of fits the style that Andrus wants to play, and they're going to be good. They're going to be good. It's funny, talk about to Jake Fetty. He went to middle school down here at Haskins.
Oh, did he?
And so I would go watch him when he was an 8th grader. I'm like, man, this kid could probably start for us now as an 8th grader.
Yeah.
And he's special. And it's, his dad, Rick, played at UTEP, and Coach Contreras over Del Valle is probably one of the best in the city, if not one of the best in Texas. He's a hell of a coach.
That program just breeds quarterbacks.
Yeah.
From the Montes kids to now Fetty. And of course, Coach Montes is there, his dad.
Sure.
Amazing coach. And
Yes.
they just keep doing it. They figure out a way to keep being great.
Yep.
The Eagles of Canutillo, they're now undefeated, 34-10 over Burgess, the Mustangs. And there's going to be a showdown next week. Canutillo hosting Del Valle. That's the game of the week. That should be a good one. So those are the one set. And the other games, Horizon being blanked by Chapin 69-0. We mentioned Del Valle 62-6 over El Paso. Eastwood, another great team, and you play at Eastwood this year. That should be a good game. 56-49 over Odessa. They beat the Broncos. Monterey defeats Franklin 36-14, and Socorro. Oh, my God. For the first time since 2021, they actually win. You're saying there's a chance. 34-7 over the Highlanders of Bel Air. I think it was at Bel Air. Oh, my gosh.
Yes, it was Bel Air's homecoming game. Coach, you don't know this. I am a graduate of Socorro High School.
Poor guy.
I think it was my sophomore season. Coach Carson was there. That was the last time we had any type of success. So to see the Socorro Bulldogs finally get that monkey off their back.
Congratulations.
Get a
I'm
win.
happy for you.
It was
It was
exciting.
about time.
The first game of the season, they had a lead against Horizon.
And they
Then
blew
we
it.
get the lightning storms.
Yeah. And then
And
that
all
was
the momentum's gone.
And that was foreshadowing that you were eventually going to get the win. So happy for
That
you.
it would be electric in Socorro, yes.
Congratulations. That's one of many coming, hopefully.
Yes.
And finally, Pebble Hill 63-14, taking care of Americas. And that's your week 3 scores.
I want to give a little shout out to the kids over at El Dorado High School. Yes, as Brandon mentioned, I am a teacher over there at El Dorado High School. Audio video teacher. That means I get to be down on the field. I get to see all the fun stuff that happens down there. And one of the kids that I can't give enough love to is one of our inside linebackers. His name is David Martinez. The kid is just an absolute beast. He has 3 defensive touchdowns in 3 games and 4 or 3 rather strip sacks and a fumble. He should have 4 total touchdowns, but he got tackled at the 2-yard line right in front of me, and I made fun of him relentlessly because he's in my class. So now maybe that's the momentum he's getting to just be like, Mr. Tipton's going to shut the hell up one of these days about this tackle. David's doing a great job. I mean, the whole team over at El Dorado, that turnaround, right? From going through the growing pains of that 1-9 season of last year to now going over to 5A and starting off 3-0. They get Eastwood next week, so that's going to be a bit of a test.
It's going to be tough.
But, man, look, just having that bit of a turnaround and you get to see the momentum this team has right now, those kids are doing great, and I couldn't be more proud of them.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Ray we trust, huh?
Oh,
Man, that kid's good.
Ray Estrada, he is on a different
He
level.
made us look stupid 2 years ago when he was a freshman.
And
I think he ran for 300 yards or something as a
4
freshman.
touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane. That's
Their offense. I mean, it's you can't find a bad thing on offensively, on defensively, special teams. Maybe a missed field goal here and there, but it's high school. You should expect that.
Sure.
The one thing I will say, you haven't played a game at the new SAC, have you?
No, sir. I've went and watched the scrimmage there between Montwood and Americas, but we haven't played there yet.
So, but it's the dimensions
It's
are
tight.
a little tight, right?
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Oklahoma State. When we
Yes.
played at Oklahoma State, there is no sideline. It's basically we're here and the fans are right behind you, and you can hear everything.
It gets so much louder, and I was anticipating it to get. We had a packed house yesterday taking on the Montwood Rams. Montwood had great support out there as well. But during warm-ups, our kicker kicks a field goal, and it hits that Fine Arts building. I keep thinking to myself, that's going to be think of baseball, right? Your batter's eye, that right there is your kicker's eye. You're hitting that. I'm aiming at that thing all the time, man.
That's great. I got to check out the SAC too. I haven't been, a game there yet.
And congrats to Coach Kano over at Socorro. He and I worked together for 6 years. You've got some really good guys on staff, Coach Famaligi, and Eddie is one of the best people I've been around that actually likes kids. He loves kids, and so he's been dealt a raw hand the last couple of years, but he'll get it right.
Well, we're coming back. Socorro, we're coming back.
Yeah, it's 1 of 3 this year at least.
Hey, 33%.
Hey, I will take 3 over 0 for the last several years.
Yeah, like I said, I've been telling Brandon over the last few years we need to start getting some wins in Socorro because my whole mindset up until they got the forfeit wins in 2020.
Yeah,
my whole mindset was you're at 80 some odd straight losses. Let's get to 100 straight losses because if you're going to lose, make it historic. It's got to be that way.
I am now a Socorro Bulldogs fan.
There we go. I like it.
No.
Wow.
Sorry.
Wow.
I'm a Socorro fan. I'm a big Socorro fan. All the administrators we had at Pebble Hills when I was teaching there are now at Socorro.
Yes.
Coaches are down there. So it's Dr. Storga, the principal. They're going to do good things down there.
Well,
they've got the right people in the right seats.
My boy OT, great friend of mine from college, is of course the actually not the freshman, the varsity basketball coach. By the way, guess who's coaching? You're gonna love this. Speaking of someone that has no coaching experience, guess who's coaching freshman boys basketball at Austin?
Who?
Me.
Really?
Yeah, the coach comes to me, right? The varsity coach, Coach Sapian, comes to me like the first week we're back for all those trainings. It says Coach Cohen. He calls me, Coach Cohen, whatever, Mr. Cohen.
Yeah.
He says, hey, I'd like to interview you for the vacant freshman. I'm like, I'm looking around. I'm like, me? I'm like, I'm a speech and debate coach, right? I'm an athletics coach. And he's like, I like your enthusiasm. The kids love you. You're a masterful motivator. Needless to say, I took the job.
Good.
And here I am about a month in. And I've never worked so hard in my life.
What are your thoughts so far?
It's cool. I mean, it's interesting, and I'm trying to help the kids. I'm learning the game. I got laundry duty.
Yeah.
I got food duty. Let's see, what else am I doing? Oh, grade checks.
Yep.
Dude, I am working my friggin' ass off.
Yep.
On
That's
top
good.
of running my speech and debate team.
Yeah,
So.
I do laundry at Coronado too.
Oh boy,
It's fun.
yeah, it seems like it's great. I can't wait till that uniforms just reek.
What
coming,
advice can you give Brandon other than not have Ricky uniform?
Yeah, help me.
What
Would you
advice
please?
can you give Brandon?
Number
coming
one,
to you.
don't stink. But 2 is just make sure everything you do has got to have the kids in mind.
Yeah,
And you're going to have
course.
wins and losses. Enjoy the wins, celebrate them. I don't care if you're playing whoever you're playing. Enjoy the wins. 24 hours after a loss, on to the next one.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's not about wins and losses. It's about impactful relationships and mentoring these young men to become men.
Yeah.
That's what it belongs to. And they'll remember you forever.
Yeah.
I promise you.
I appreciate
I take
that.
back when I had Coach Grahal at Lincoln Middle School,
Coach Grahal.
and I still talk to him every day. Not every day, usually about once a week. And it's like, man, he ripped our tails.
Yeah.
And we didn't like him at the time, but now it's like we understand why. And he molded a lot of us. And we'll get together, me and Matt Neeson and the Coons and Oscar Lopez and all the guys from my year. And like, man, that was very meaningful because we were a good squad. I think our freshman year when we were still at Lincoln, they scored 7 points on us the entire year. And so he had to find some way to motivate us because we were good. So he did it by ripping our tails. But it worked, and we love the guy for it. So the kids will remember you forever. So
No, I appreciate
it's not the income, it's the outcome.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to leave a lasting impression. I mean,
And you will.
I'm lucky that I have great students at Austin. I really
Yes.
do, and I love my kids, and they know I love them. You know,
Yep.
for whatever I do, so whenever it's teaching pro-com or being their debate coach or now being their basketball coach, they know
Sure.
I care about them and I want the best for them. So I appreciate that. Thank you for your
absolutely.
advice.
And I taught speech and debate for 12 years, so we're in the same.
It's
It's fun. It's
Best
fun.
class to teach.
Everything's a lesson.
Yeah, I love it.
Everything's a
I
lesson.
love it.
I
Right?
mean, the audio video is pretty fun.
That's good,
I
too.
mean, I'm just
You're a
gonna
second
throw that
close.
out there, right?
You're a second close.
Speech, audio, video, PE.
I'm outnumbered here, so I'm not going to harp too much on it. But Coach, I wanted to ask you real quick: is there a difference that you would approach, let's say, incoming freshmen as opposed to your varsity, or do you kind of hold the same standard the whole way?
You know, the standard is the standard, and it's really that's why I have this shirt on. It's Coach Ayala, who's our strength and conditioning coach and D-line coach. He kind of sets the standard and the culture for the entire program. It's not me. I can promise you 100% it's him. But the standard is the standard, so he treats them all the same. I'm a little different until I get to know their ins and outs. I give the freshmen a little more leeway. The older kids were on pretty hard until we understand or they understand what to expect of them. But once they understand what to expect from us, it's the standard's the standard. It's you're not going to be late. You're not going to skip practice. You're going to do the warm up right. And you're going to give the best of your ability. So we treat them all the same for the most part.
Week 3 of El Paso High School football is now in the books. Congratulations to all the teams that won. And obviously we're looking forward to what's going to happen next week, as well as now we're starting to get into the throes of district play and all the stuff that's happening out over there. Coach, the best of luck on the remainder of this
Thank you.
season. But I also want to get this. We need to make sure we're at Brandon's first game, making him as nervous as possible.
Oh, can we get those big blow up dolls? They're not blow up dolls, the blow up heads.
Blow up dolls.
I'll bring one of those too. I'll get one of those too. But we'll get those big blow those fat heads.
Yeah.
And we'll
Get them.
Thank
I'm
you.
in.
Thank you. I
I'm in.
appreciate it, Coach. Thank you.
Yeah.
You guys being there really makes my day. You know, I can't believe I'm coaching basketball. I'm going to do my best.
And you're going to make mistakes.
Yes, a lot.
But don't.
I already have.
It happens.
I've already got my ass reamed a few times,
Yeah,
but
it
that's
happens.
okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. I got to learn, right?
Yeah. It's everybody makes mistakes, and you just move on.
All right. Whenever I hear Coach Cohen, I'm like, oh boy, I want to hide into the desk.
Yeah.
Coach Cohen. Uh-oh.
As long as it's not in the principal's office.
Oh yeah, that's the worst.
That's
right?
where I stay.
Yeah. He knows.
Oh, yeah.
He gets it. He gets it. Yeah, 100%.
He gets it. He gets it.
Y'all have been educators longer than I have, so now I gotta watch back and see what y'all do.
Yeah. 18 years for me, man.
Oh man, you're old.
Just stand by the door at transition. You'll be good.
Yeah. There you
Yeah,
go.
that's the main thing.
You're
No,
right.
yeah,
He's right.
100%.
He's right.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. This is going to be the end of week number 2, as Brandon and I are now the official hosts of the Prep One podcast, the portion that we're going to have here on Fire and Ice every Saturday as well. Coach, thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you,
We
Coach.
appreciate it, and we will see you all next week.
Take care, everybody.